In a distant land, tucked deep within the belly of an ancient African forest, there existed a realm unseen by mortal eyes, a world filled with spirits and demons, each dedicated to chaos and darkness. It was here that Kosoko, the evil makeup artist, was born. He was no ordinary man. Kosoko was a demon from the dark underworld, conjured from the very essence of malice. His gift was unique. He could craft cosmetics infused with wicked powers, concoctions that, once applied, transformed the unsuspecting into minions of darkness. Kosoko had found a way to enter the human realm, choosing to disguise himself as a traveling makeup artist. With his elaborate brushes and jars filled with his demonic mixtures, he offered his services to the gullible and the vain. His cosmetics promised unmatched beauty, but at a great cost. Anyone who allowed him to touch their face was bound to the underworld, losing their identity and soul. They became part of Kosoko's growing army of evil agents who spread chaos and misfortune wherever they went. He had an uncanny ability to charm his victims. Women from towns far and wide would fall for his promises, inviting him into their homes, not knowing that the beauty he promised was a trap. After Kosoko worked his magic, they would stare into their mirrors in awe, admiring their flawless faces. But within days, they would begin to change. Their beauty would morph into something unnatural, and their hearts would turn cold. They would stop caring about their families, their lives, or even themselves. Their whole desire was to do evil, to destroy, to sow discord in everything around them. The makeup Kosoko applied didn't just change appearances, it altered souls. One morning, as Kosoko lounged in his dark lair, a voice echoed in his head. It was a summoning, a call for his services. The voice belonged to a woman named Adana, who lived in the village of Umudike. Her voice was sweet and soft, laced with the kind of innocence that made Kosoko's blackened heart throb with excitement. She will be perfect, he thought, preparing his demonic powders and potions. Adana was unlike his usual clients. Though Kosoko had no way of knowing, she was a woman of faith, known for her godliness and purity of heart. Her request for makeup was not driven by vanity, but by a rare opportunity. She had been invited to a royal wedding and wanted to look her best, as she was to represent her village at the celebration. Kosoko didn't know this. All he knew was that another soul was ripe for harvesting. With his bag of cursed cosmetics slung over his shoulder, Kosoko set out for Umudike. The sky darkened as he traveled, and the wind howled like a pack of wolves. But Kosoko paid it no mind. He thrived on such ominous signs. When he arrived at Adana's home, something stirred in the air. The house was simple but radiated an unusual warmth. Kosoko hesitated for a moment at the door, his demonic senses picking up something faint, something that didn't sit well with his dark spirit. But he shook it off. After all, he had faced worse. No mortal could stand against him. Adana greeted him with a kind smile, her warm eyes crinkling at the corners. "Thank you for coming," she said, leading him into her home. The house was filled with the smell of freshly baked bread and the gentle hum of a woman's song, a hymn to a god Kosoko despised. His fingers twitched, but he stayed focused. His mission was clear: to make Adana part of his cult, to transform her from a woman of faith into a harbinger of darkness. Kosoko set his bag on the wedding table and began to unpack his tools, his brushes, powders, and vials filled with ominous-looking liquids. Adana sat before him, her head bowed slightly as if in prayer. There was something about the way she sat, so peaceful, so serene, that made Kosoko uncomfortable. But he pushed the feeling aside. "Shall we begin?" he asked, his voice smooth and dripping with false charm. Adana nodded. "Yes, thank you." As Kosoko started applying the makeup, he felt something strange. His hands, unusually steady and sure, began to tremble. He blamed it on his excitement, the anticipation of another soul soon to be claimed. But then the trembling intensified. The brush he was using felt as though it had grown heavier. His fingers began to tingle. He glanced down at his hands. Were they burning? It couldn't be. Adana, still calm and composed, closed her eyes, seemingly unaware of the battle raging within Kosoko. As he applied the cursed powders to her face, something inside him stirred. For the first time, Kosoko felt fear. His dark powers, which usually thrived in such moments, began to wane. A fire, small at first, began to flicker deep within his chest, growing hotter with every stroke of the brush. By the time he reached for the final vial, the one that would seal Adana's fate, Kosoko was sweating. The fire inside him had spread, scorching him from within. His skin started to bubble and peel. Adana opened her eyes, and Kosoko saw something he had never seen before. A light so pure and bright that it made his demonic soul recoil in terror. "You!" Kosoko hissed, stepping back. "What are you?" Adana stood slowly, her eyes never leaving his. "I am a child of the living God," she said softly, "and you have no power here." Kosoko stumbled, his heart racing. He could feel his true form fighting to emerge. The monster within him, the creature of darkness that had hidden beneath the guise of a human face, was clawing its way to the surface. But he couldn't let it show. Not yet. He had to finish the job. He had to claim her soul. Ignoring the fire inside him, Kosoko lunged forward, his hands reaching for the final jar of the makeup. But as soon as he touched it, a searing pain shot through his body. He screamed, dropping the vial as his skin began to melt away, revealing the hideous creature beneath. Kosoko's body twisted and contorted, his human facade burning away to reveal a monstrous, snake-like figure. His eyes glowed red, and his skin turned scaly and black. Adana didn't flinch. She raised her hands and began to pray, her voice steady and strong. "By the power of the Almighty God, I command you to leave this place," she shouted, her voice echoing through the house. Kosoko roared out, his body writhing in agony. The fire within him had become unbearable. He felt his strength draining, his power slipping away. "No!" he screamed, his voice barely recognizable. "You cannot defeat me. I am eternal." But Adana's prayer grew louder, more fervent. The air around her shimmered with a divine light, and Kosoko's body began to disintegrate. With one final, desperate lunge, Kosoko transformed fully into his true form, a massive, venomous serpent. His fangs dripped with poison as he struck at Adana, but before he could reach her, a beam of light shot from her eyes, engulfing him in flames. Kosoko's screams filled the air as his body burned, turning to ash before Adana's eyes. When the fire finally died down, all that remained of Kosoko was a pile of smoldering ashes. Adana stood in the center of her home, her hands still raised in prayer, her face untouched by the evil that had tried to claim her. The village of Umudike never saw Kosoko again. His court of evil slowly crumbled, his followers regaining their senses as the dark magic that bound them dissipated. Adana's story spread far and wide, a tale of faith and courage, a reminder that even the darkest forces could be defeated by the light. Kosoko, the evil makeup artist from the underworld, had been vanquished, but the people of Umudike would never forget the day when a woman's prayer saved them from the clutches of darkness.
The end. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, kindly let me know what you think in the comments. Support me with a super thanks, like, and please remember to subscribe.